Shalom, welcome everybody. We're going to read through Parashat Vayyelekh, Deuteronomy 31. This is a short portion. It's usually combined with something else, unless there's an intercalary leap year. If anyone wants to annotate on the screen or raise your hand to read or ask a question, this is how you do it. And who would like to get us started and read the first verse? Okay, then I will. Vayyelekh Moshe וידבר את הדברים האלה אל כל ישראל. Vayyelekh. This is from the root halach, to go, to walk. It's a vayiktol, which means it's narrative past. And the next thing that happened in the story is, Yod says he went. Who did? Moshe. Moses went. Vaidaber, there's another one. What happened next in the story? And then he spoke. Spoke what? Et hadvarim ha'ele. Et is the direct object marker. Hadvarim, the words. Ha'ele, these ones. El, towards. Kol Yisrael, all of Israel. Remember, most of Deuteronomy is a monologue from Moses, so this is just continuing the theme. Who would like to read this verse right here? Eileen, do you want to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Vayomer.
Vayomer.
Vayomer Alhem Be'im.
Right. Ben Me'ah.
Ben Ah. Harim.
Ve'esrim.
Esrim.
Uh-huh.
Na.
Shana.
Shana. Anahi.
Anochi.
Anuhi. Ha. Ha-I-U-M.
Hayom.
Hayom. At. No, wait a minute.
Lo uchal.
Lo uchal. Who are?
Od.
Od. Yeah, it's
Od.
Al se at.
Latse. The aleph here has
La
the aleph has
atse.
no vowel, so it makes no sound. Latset.
Latse. Val al be ot.
Velavo.
Velavot.
Well, there's no tav, is it? Velavo.
Oh, velavo. Sorry. Va Adonai.
Vadonai.
Va Adonai. Asher al he.
Amar.
Oh, Amar.
Elai.
Elai.
Right.
Al.
Lo.
Lo. Excuse me. I confused them. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm patient. Lo ta'avor.
Lo atavar.
Ta'avor.
Vo. Ta'avo.
Et.
Ha Yarden. Ha seha.
Hazeh.
Hase.
Hazeh. Very good. Vayomer alehem. This is still Moses speaking, and he said unto them, Ben me'al v'esrim shana. Right? I'm sure that's how he was probably just as crisp at 120 years old as anyone could be. Ben me'a v'esrim, a son of 120 shana, year. Since the number is bigger than 10, we know it's plural, years. Anochi, am I. I'm a son of 120 years. And in Hebrew, if you want to say how old you are, you say you are a son or daughter of X number of years. Hayom, today.
Lo.
Lo uchal od, not I am able or will be able anymore. Latzet, to go out. Velavo, and to enter or come in. Vadonai, and the Lord Amar Eli said, he said to me, Lo ta'avor, you shall not cross over. Et hayarden hazeh, this Jordan or Jordan River. All right, let's see, try and figure out something difficult here. Well, let's start with something easy. What is the root of this word over here?
Isn't
Try
the root a mer?
Aleph Mem
Tamar.
Resh.
Yeah, it's all right there. Aleph Mem Resh. That's your root. Does Aleph sometimes quiesce, that is, go quiet?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
How about here?
Yes.
Is that an example?
Yes.
How about here? Is that an example?
Yes.
Are there any more examples?
Yes.
Where?
Where it says
Do
vocal.
I can?
Vocal.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Ukal, sorry, ukal.
Are you saying uchal right here?
Yes, ukal.
I'm afraid
yes.
I'm afraid not, because there's a vowel attached to it. When there's a vowel attached to Aleph, then that means that that is a consonantal Aleph. So that's ooh.
So
And that
because
that sound of that's
Yeah.
the sound
Yeah.
of an Aleph. Now you can't make it at the end of a syllable.
Okay.
So look a little bit to the right. Do you see another one?
That's it. The low.
Lo quiesces.
Yeah.
Latzet quiesces.
Mhm.
And there's another lo. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quiesced Alephs in this one verse.
Yeah.
Because you can't make the sound at the end of a syllable. And so it just kind of goes silent.
Jared?
Yes,
So
question.
Yeah, that brings up a question that I saw something on YouTube when they were talking about this, and I've never heard it from e-teacher, and
Okay.
they're calling that Aleph a mater, and I didn't that wasn't taught to us that way. Does some teachings say that it is, or
It was right. It was actually primarily through Aramaic influence that Aleph becomes a mater. Aleph will often be used to represent an ah vowel in the middle of a word, but a quiesced Aleph is not a mater. But yes, there are certain Alephs in Hebrew that are going to act like a mater. Like, for example, if someone's name were Tom, it would probably be spelled something like Tom. And here the Aleph is acting as a mater. So it does exist, but it's later, generally post-biblical phenomenon, largely influenced by Aramaic. Great question.
thank you.
So if an aleph is the first letter of a syllable, then it's very probably not going to be silent, correct?
That's correct, and I could be. The answer is yes. If Aleph is at the beginning of a syllable, then it's going to be a consonant. But another way of wording that is that if Aleph has a vowel attached to it, then it's a
Right.
consonant. It's only when there's no vowel attached to it that it will quiesce.
Could I ask you a question?
Yeah, what's
As
your
we're talking
question?
about matres,
Mhm.
I think we did talk about them in Unit 1, not Unit 1, Level 1.
Okay.
And they were talking about, but they talked about Vav and Yod.
That's precisely Cheryl's
And
question, is
I
that,
think those are the two that they mentioned.
and there
They
should be a
didn't
third
really
one.
mention
Hey.
Aleph at all.
Okay, final hey is a mater lectionis, because it represents either a or e or even a segol e. Sorry, that looks confusing, doesn't it? You can have a kamatz hey, you can have a tzere hey, and you can have a segol hey. Yod will represent a chirik, or yod will represent a tzere yod. And then Vav will represent an O sound or an U sound. These are largely your mater lectionis letters. Later on, that's where you get your Aleph representing some sort of an A or, kamatz or patach sound. If anyone has taken Aramaic, there are lots of words that end in kamatz Aleph. And it's because of that phenomenon that's actually the definite article in Aramaic. It's because of that phenomenon that Hebrew takes Aleph on as a mater in post-biblical Hebrew. But yeah, the primary ones are Vav and Yod, with final Hey being the third. Actually, probably final Hey is more common. Oh, that's right. Hey, final Hey originally represented an O sound, like Shlomo, Solomon. So I forgot to include that one. Good. I think that's everything. Comments or questions so far? Jesse, would you like to read?
Okay.
All right.
Adonai Elohecha hu ovar lefanecha hu yashmid et hagoyim haele milfanecha virishtam Yahoshua hu ovar lefanecha ka'asher diber Adonai.
Mm-hmm. Now I noticed you pronounced these two the same way.
Over?
Very good. Over. When you read it, you said var.
Oh,
Over. That's correct. Okay, very good. Adonai Elohecha hu over lefanecha. So the Lord your God, there's your suffix, yours. The Lord your God, who, that is he, over, is crossing or going over, lefanecha, like to your face, that is in front of you, right? Your face is on the front side, so lefanecha means he's in front of you, to or in front of your face. Hu yashmid, he will destroy. There's that yod, he will. Et hagoyim ha'ele, the nations, these ones, milfanecha, from being in front of you, right? Lifanecha is in front of you, so milfanecha is from in front of you. Virishtam, and you will possess them, right? And you will possess them. Yehoshua, that's Joshua, who over lefanecha, he will go on before you, just like it says God will. Ka'asher diber Adonai, just as he spoke, that is, the Lord did. Good. Questions?
Yes, I got one.
Go ahead.
I looked up on the verb harash for take possession of, inherit, disposes. I don't know about disposes. Does anybody know what disposes mean?
No, dispossess. I should be dispossess.
Oh, dispossess.
So it's
Okay.
okay. So there's a difference between yarash, which means to possess something, and then in the he feel, it becomes horish. Now the he feel causative form means someone will cause someone else to possess, like the land. Well, if God, for example, is causing Israel to possess the land, then that necessarily follows that the nations that are currently there are going to be dispossessed by God. So that's why sometimes in the Bible, this verb is translated both as cause someone to possess or dispossess a land. It seems like opposites, but it's kind of like the English word for dusting, right? Do you dust a cake or do you dust the window? In one case, you remove the dust. In the other one, you add the dust. It's the same word, but it's opposites. There's a fancy word for that I found on dictionary.com. I don't remember what it is, though. Great question. Any other comments?
Yes, I have another little picky question of mine.
Yeah, go ahead, Cheryl.
When do you use the vav with the chirik, virish under it? Like sometimes I see it with ve, but there's certain cases, and I don't know which.
Sure.
it's-
Let me ask you a question first. If I have the word malachim
Mhm.
and I want to add a preposition prefix to it, ka,
Can't have two shvas in a row.
then what happens?
One of them has to go. So I guess
It's the first one.
kimlachim.
Very good. So instead of a shva here, it's going to have a chirik. So this is a very interesting phenomenon. Sorry, this is a quick aside. How can I say this? Okay, watch this. No. How can I say that? Avol. Okay, here we go. If I have this word right here, okay, avor, like the infinitive construct, avor, to crossover, and I put ka in front of it. Can this happen? To reduce no. Just like you can't have two shvas, so also you can't have two reduced vowels in a row. So what happens here? Does it turn into a chirik?
Patach.
Patach.
Ka'avo.
The
it
va
turns
under the
into
top.
hirik, doesn't it?
I'm afraid not. The chirik happened over here,
Oh,
and now over here we're going to get a patach. So this is precisely the point that I'm trying to make. Let me see if I can find. No, I can't do that one. Ooh, I can do this one. All right. What word is this?
Emet, truth.
Right. Emet. Good. If I put ka in front of this, can I have two reduced vowels? No, we already talked about that. So the question is, what does the shva turn into here?
Seker.
is it also a seri?
I don't know.
No, it would turn into a segol. It would turn because of you want vowel harmonization to take place between the shva that can't be there and the following reduced vowel. So it would be ke'emet. Ke'emet. Now, if I could use a word like I think there's a dagesh. Forgive me if there's not. No, it's with an aleph, Jared, you silly head. There we go. All right. Does anyone know this word?
Onia. Boats.
Can you
Oniot.
read it to me?
It's
Oniot.
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 Yeah.
Oniot. That's poor people.
No. That would be ani with an ayin. Very good. With an aleph, oniot, it means ships or boats.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Ships or
Okay.
boats.
Right.
Okay. So if I put ka, and you guys are like, Jared, this is getting to be too much. If I put ka in front of it, I can't have two reduced vowels. What goes here?
Kamat.
Tzere. Okay. Oniot. No, that's not so good.
Patah?
Oh.
If there's a reduced patach, you put a patach. If there's a reduced segol, you put a segol. If there's a
We have
reduced
oval.
kamatz, you
It's
put a
oval.
Kamatz. Kamatz.
kamatz katan. It has to be a short vowel.
Katan.
Kamatz katan, a short vowel. So this would
That-
be ko'oniyot.
Ah,
All
yes,
right.
yes.
But it
Lord.
looks the same.
Say again,
Yes.
Sarah.
But it looks the same.
Of course it looks the same. And it's very
Yes.
frustrating that it looks the same. But the point is that you always get a short vowel the shva that can't be there turns into a full vowel, usually a short vowel. So
Yes.
here patach, here segol, here kamatz katan. Now back to the original point. If we have vowel harmonization between these three reduced vowels, pray tell, what is happening here? Ladies and gentlemen, it's the same thing. It's vowel harmonization. What am I getting at? Shva was originally pronounced like a reduced chirik. The proof is in the pudding. Now, you'll have Israelis cuss up and down, swearing that that has nothing to do with that, but I'm just using the prima facie evidence suggests that if two shvas turn into chirik shva, and every other flavor of vowel turns into that short vowel, then it tells me that shvas were originally produced to sound like a reduced chirik, like eh, eh, eh. All right, so this would have been anyway, but I digress. The original question was, when do I get a vav with a chirik? Well, it ties back into our discussion because if we have the word here we go. Yerishtam. Yerishtam. That's a chirik right there. That means this word starts with a shva. Now we're going to add a vav to the front. Oh dear. Two shvas.
Yes.
Now, here's an interesting, I guess, not factoid. An interesting fact is that usually when you add a vav to a word that starts with a shva, the vav does the changing, and it will turn into u. Isn't that correct?
Oh, that was my first thought. But
Of course, but here the yod trumps it. Because there's a yod following it,
yes.
it turns it into a chirik. And the chirik yod is already a vowel, so it doesn't need another shva to say that it ends the syllable. So the shva is unnecessary, and you get vishtam.
Yeah.
Exactly what we have here. So it's a combination of should have a shva, and the following letter is a yod with a shva, to answer your question, Cheryl. But I hope that this little tangent that we went on was fun and exciting.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
Mhm.
All right. Who is my next reader?
I can read.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Okay. ועשה אדוני להם כאשר עשה לזיכרון ולעוג מלכי מלכי האמור או אמורי, what's that word? אמוריתס, okay. האמורי ולארצם אשר השמיד אותם.
Very good.
Mhm.
ועשה אדוני להם כאשר עשה לסיחון ולעוג מלכי האמורי ולארצם asher hishmid otam. Okay, so from our previous discussion, we talked about this phenomenon and well, this
Yes.
phenomenon,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So now
Mhm.
that makes a little more sense.
Mhm.
And then next, what was it? Oh, do you all remember us talking? It was quite a long time ago about Mr. Og.
The giants.
Yes, he's a giant. Do you all remember our discussion about him?
No, I don't. But I just
What
read
is
about it today.
what is the Hebrew word for cake? A round cake?
Uga.
Uga.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Uga. And it comes from the root ug, which means round thing.
Oh, right.
So this giant was apparently as wide as he was tall.
Ach so.
Is
I'm just
in Scottish Gaelic. Oh, actually means small.
small.
Yes, it does.
How ironic. So from the Hebrew, I'm just inferring from his name that we know about his bed. Remember, there's a discussion about how giant, how huge his bed was, and in fact, where it's located. How did Moses know that? Anyway, so he's a giant, he's a king, and his name means round. Oh my goodness. Malchei HaEmori, the Amorite kings, Ula'autzam. Let's see, Asher Hishmid Otam. What form of verb is this?
Vikatar.
Very good. How did you know that?
Okay, the stress is at the end. It's normal.
Yeah, you can't tell anything from the stress. Is there anything from the context you can tell?
Yeah, feeling.
It's a future tense.
It has to be future because it says it's talking about the kings. Let's see. Hagoyim ha'ele, these nations, and you shall possess them. Okay. Then in our verse, and God did to them. No, we haven't gone into the land yet. So it has to be future and therefore vekatal. So you're absolutely correct. It is vekatal. He shall do. And how do we know it's vekatal? Well, there's a katal with a v in front and the context demands it. That's all we got.
Yep.
You can't tell that it's a vekatal outside of context unless it's a first person common singular or a 2ms, and sometimes not even that. But anyway, these two forms will have final stress instead of penultimate stress. So the stress moves for those two forms, but other than that, you have to use the context. And he shall do, that is the Lord, unto them, ka'asher, like that, or just as, asa, he did, lesichon, ula'og, to those two kings, malchei ha'emori, ula'artzam, asher hishmid. We saw that verb in the previous verse or 2 verses ago. Otam. What's the absolute form of the word otam?
Ten?
Et.
F.
The stand.
Yes.
Of course. The standalone. The standalone form. Actually, the standalone form of the word et looks like this, and if it happens to have a makaf attaching it to the next letter, that long vowel in a closed syllable drops to a segol. But that's your standalone form. As soon as you add a suffix to it, though, then o is the vowel that it takes. Otam. Does it have an o in all of the various inflections with all of the various pronominal suffixes? Will there always be an o if there's a suffix attached to it?
Yes.
Ot. Otcha,
Otor,
otach, oto,
without
ota,
second masculine plural.
otanu. What's next after
Et,
otanu?
etchem,
Etchem.
etchem, etchem.
And I
Genau,
think
the second masculine plural is not without the O.
etchem, etchen,
Yeah.
and then otam, otan. So in
Yeah.
the second masculine plural and second feminine plural, that's where you lose, that's where you don't have an O sound. I wish that our friends in Israel would learn this because everyone says otchem, otchen. And it's like, that's like I have certain people in my family that say apple. I'm like, it's an apple, right? You know,
Yeah.
apple. I'm like, stop it. So anyway, that's what it sounds like to me, a perfectionist, a purist, but
Yeah.
it exists.
It's a better vowel harmonization when we speak that etrem.
Mhm. Agreed.
It's better. It's easier to pronounce.
You know what? I hadn't thought of it, but it might be vowel harmonization. Precisely.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow. I like that. Thank you for saying that. Any other comments or questions before we go on to the next verse?
An apple is it's analogous with an orange. Orange. The original word was orange.
Is it?
That's where you get naranja and
No
Larancha
kidding.
in Italian. And so because the word is obviously not British, it was an orange, and so it was an orange. And
That
then,
is fascinating.
full of crap, me.
What is it in the Latin languages? Anaranjado?
Spanish is naranja
Okay.
with a J, with a J-A on the end.
Wow. I had never known
Yeah,
that.
it's
So much.
naranja.
That is just, that tickles me to learn stuff like that. You know, I recently was looking, did I tell you guys? Maybe I did. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. I was looking for an 1828 Webster's dictionary for my father-in-law, and in doing so found the first we'll call it a dictionary even though it wasn't thorough. It wasn't complete. It was made in 1604. I just had hours of fun going through it and reading the entries. I don't know about you guys, but that stuff like that just really turns my. Anyway, moving on. Who's my next reader? Cheryl, do you want to read?
Okay.
Go ahead. Watching you guys glaze over.
Unetanam,
Right.
Adonai lifnechem, va'asitem lahem, kechol hamitzvah, asher tziviti etchem.
Asher tziviti etchem. We just talked about you, etchem. Unetatam Adonai lifnechem va'asitem lahem kachol hamitzvah asher tziviti etchem. Why does this turn into ooh?
Because there's a shva, it can't be two shvas in a row.
I
Very
think
good.
it's the nun as well,
It's
because
not.
it's is it not?
The noon isn't the problem here. It's the
Okay.
shva because we can't have the two shvas, but that's just what Cheryl said. We can't have
Yes.
two shvas, so the first one has to turn into a full vowel. Well, what? Well, seeing as vav was originally a W sound, we would have had w netanam. And that w sound is what ultimately turns into u netanam. So when there's a word starting with shva, except for yod, then the vav turns into u. Unetanam Adonai. And is this a vekatal?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a call.
Mhm.
Ah,
Third masculine.
No, it's
Singular.
Mhm.
it's Vekatal.
Okay, yes, it's vekatal. So vekatal tells us that it flips to future.
Yeah.
So that vav at the front is our vekatal.
Mhm,
There is a suffix on the end, which
mhm.
is third masculine plural then,
Nata.
with a natan in the middle. That's our regular kal katal. Well, excuse me, kal 3ms. He
Mhm.
gave.
Mhm.
So we take he
Yes.
gave, flip the tense, he will give, them, and
Mhm.
he shall give them.
so we
Mhm.
really have to look at what happened to the vav, that it was a shva to be
Come on.
vekatov originally. Okay.
I don't know if I would just I don't know. That seems unnecessarily complex to remember it that way. Remember, Vav can show up in a number of different ways, right? It can show up in its original form, Va. It can show up in its shortened form. Kamatz is a long vowel. In an open syllable, long vowels shorten. And this is the form we think is the normal form. This is your normal form. And if it's too far away from the stress, kamatz drops to shva.
Mhm.
And then if it's in front of a word that has a shva, that's when it turns into u. And if it's in front of a yod, which originally had a shva, that's when it turns into v. Now, have I forgotten any forms here?
Yeah.
Yeah, what have I forgotten?
What? Sorry. Mhm. No.
I've forgotten 2 forms. 3,
Petach,
right?
Oh,
It
yep.
can be
Vayikol, like
it can be okay. It can be va if the following vowel is reduced.
Used.
It can be ve if the following vowel is reduced.
Mhm.
And by extension, it might even be possible that we have a vo if the following vowel is reduced.
Mhm.
Now, have I forgotten any combinations, permutations, forms of vav? Okay, this is your original form right here. And all of these other ones are derived because it's easier to pronounce. So I wouldn't necessarily say, is it a vav with a shva? Is it a vav with a patach? Is it a vav? No, I just say, is there a vav in front of a katal verb? That could be a vekatal. Let's check the context. Good. What is the root of this word?
Sava. Tzade vav he. Yod.
Sadi vav yod, exactly. Over here, we lost the yod, didn't we? We see tzadi and vav, but we don't.
Original form or not?
Yod is a weak letter that goes missing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, asa
Yes.
versus asitem. Okay, so yod is a weak letter that goes missing. Who's my next reader?
May I?
Absolutely. Sarah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going to. I'm reading on my phone, so right.
Mhm.
His coup va im va im zu al ti tir tir u ve al ta ar tu mi ne hem ki Adonai Elohe Eloham Elohecha
That's it.
hu ha-holach holech
Mhm.
im imcha oh no imach, sorry, lo yir 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 yefecha
Mhm. Yapecha.
yarfecha velo yaatbecha.
Very good reading. I'll read through one time, and then I'd like to point out some oddities in this verse about splitting up syllables, and I want you all to help clarify why that happens. Okay, so let's read first. Follow along. Chizku ve'imtzu al tir'u ve'al ta'arzu mipnehem ki Adonai Elohecha hu haholech imach lo yapcha velo ya'azveka. Okay, it's not cha. See that dagesh? It's ya'azveka. Okay. What's the first thing I want to start with? Why did
I
I
want to
divide
start
the
with the
syllable?
first word on the second sentence. How
First
did you
word
get
on the second
of
sentence?
from 6 letters?
Hang on. First word on the second sentence.
Yeah, that you just circled. Of.
This one?
Yes. How did
All
you
right.
get 6 Hebrew letters for one 2-letter word?
Help
That immediately got my attention. I'm
help me
like,
understand your question. We have 6 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
6. What's your question?
the the interpretation under it says, "Be strong and of good cheer, not the fear, not be afraid of for
Uh-huh.
the Lord,
Okay, so
not be
there's actually
afraid of." Okay, not be afraid of all of those
right.
things.
So the English
Okay.
here is missing. My apologies, but there's a hem on the end, which is of them. So do
Okay.
not be afraid of them. My apologies.
Okay, I got you.
Otherwise, yeah, that big long word translated as of. I get that. Sorry about that. Okay. How do I want to say this? All right. What? If I took the tav, no. Ooh, if I took the tav away, what vowel would be here on the yod?
It would be hirik.
Very good. It should have been a shva. You can't have 2 shvas, so it turns into chirik yir'u. Okay, and that would be like a command form to you all. Fear yir'u. But here there's a tav in front. So if you have a tav in front, you have 2 shvas, it turns into a chirik yod, just like the vav did. V'rishtem, right? Tir'u. So here's our syllable divider. That starts the next syllable. Tir'u. And same thing kind of happens right here, doesn't it? If we have a tav for tachazku, or let's see, would that be tachazku, I guess? No, it'd be techezku.
Chizku.
Techezku, because it's a state of being verb. So it would be techez, techez, techez. Oh, okay. So that's actually getting to the point. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun on this right here. What's wrong with this syllable here?
It's missing a yod.
It's missing a yod? Where is it missing a yod?
sorry,
Second
I did it
masculine
wrong.
plural. Second masculine plural.
Well, it has a tav in the front and u in the end. That's 2MP. I get that. But what's going on with this right here?
Doesn't when a schwa is preceded by a short vowel, it closes a syllable,
Yes.
and when it's follows a long vowel, it opens a syllable, like tir
Unless it's stressed. Unless it's stressed.
Okay,
You
that's
can you can get a schwa closing a long syllable if it's stressed. Of course, I don't see a. Oh, yeah, like this right here. Here we have a long vowel. Syllable ends with a schwa, but it's stressed, so nothing wrong with it. But that's not what I wanted to get at.
So could you say that all again? Because that was really new to me.
Sure. The point, this is a rehashing of the Rouse rule, the rule of unstressed syllables, which states that short vowels should be in closed syllables. Now, what that means is that if it's a closed syllable, then you should have a final schwa. We can find examples all throughout this verse, like, for example, im has a short chirik and a schwa closing the syllable. So Cheryl's point was that if you see a short vowel before a schwa, you know it will be a silent schwa. And she said if you have a long vowel before a schwa, then it should be an audible or mobile schwa.
All right. So if you have a long vowel before a schwa, then it's audible.
No, the opposite. Yes, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. If there's a long vowel before schwa, it should be an audible schwa. But then I gave her a counter to that position, and that's if the syllable is stressed, then you can actually have a closed syllable with a long vowel, such as this one here. Imach. Okay, so sorry for that aside. Back to the original point, though, is this right here. This should have been, if we take away the u at the end, what should this form be? Maybe we're not familiar with this one right here. Let's use avar. Avar. If I put a tav on the front that says you will, what does it become?
Imperative.
Ta'avar.
Avo.
Ta'avar.
Four.
Should be ta'avo. Okay. Now I want to take this and add and make it 2MP instead of just singular. I want to make it plural. Okay, so that puts an u at the end, which shifts the stress, which drops the cholam. Oh no. Oh no. You see what's just happened, don't you? We have two reduced vowels in a row. Usually when we have two reduced vowels, the first one has to be silent and the second one audible. But this chataf patach will never be silent. Never. So how does Hebrew fix it?
It just makes two hatafs. No,
It makes two patachs. Very good. It will just make this a full vowel. Ta'avru. Ta'avru. Very good.
Okay, I was wondering, is it missing a vav?
So what should, is it missing a vav?
Yeah,
No.
this up here, to be afraid.
Be afraid. Oh, up here? No, that's not missing a vav. Okay, so ta'arzu is doing the same thing. That was supposed to be a reduced patach, but then that would be two audible reduced vowels in a row, and you can't have that. So that's why it just turns it into a full patach. And it did it again over here. See that? That was also supposed to have a reduced patach right there, but you can't have two audible reduced vowels in a row. So ya'azveka. Why is there a dagesh in this kaf? You know what? That's too, I rushed into it too fast. Let me just ease in there a little bit. What is the yod at the front of this word? What does it mean? What does it represent? Yod at the front of a verb?
It's masculine singular,
Mm-hmm.
future.
Yep. So it's yiktol, usually future.
Yes.
3ms, he will do something. What is kaf at the end of a word? Ka or
You.
ka? You.
You.
So he will do something to you.
Yeah.
Should be ya'azovcha or ya'azovcha, but because of pausal form, the stress moves over to here, which lengthens the shva to an artificial segol. Ya'azvecha. Wait a second, it's not cha, it's ka.
Oh.
Now, why is there a dagesh in there?
It's not a dagesh.
Oh, I don't know. Seger.
It's something. It's called something else, but it's not a dagesh, is it?
Well, if it were inside of, for example, the letter hey, it would be called a mapik.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's pronounced, isn't it?
But this is not a hey. This is
It's
a
not
ka,
a peak. That's not a mapik either. Then
not a mapik.
Mm-hmm.
It is most certainly a dagesh.
It's a weak dagesh.
But there's a preceding vowel.
I know,
Yeah.
but it becomes a k, so it changed the pronunciation.
Well, yeah, but whether it's a weak or strong dagesh, it always changes the pronunciation
Oh,
of
right,
the
right.
Kafat letters, and kaf is one of them. So the question is it weak or
Is
strong?
it-
Well, there's a
it-
vowel before it. It has to be strong.
I was gonna say, is it not a doubled because of the katop under it?
It's doubled because there's a vowel before it. That vowel before it would scare away a weak dagesh. This is a strong dagesh, so it is grammatically doubled. So why is it grammatically doubled becomes the follow-up question.
Ooh, I get it. Ham and ham?
What?
Ham and ham? I don't know.
And him? We have a missing.
He's
have
gonna
a
forsake
missing-
him and him?
We have a missing. No, there's no him. The him, he will is the yod at the front. The cha at the end is do something to you. So he will do something to you. The
Oh,
root
okay.
is azav, which is to leave or abandon. Fortunately, it's preceded by the word lo, so he will not abandon you. But that should be ya'azvecha. Ya'azvecha. But instead it's
That's wonderful.
ya'azveka. And I'm wondering why. Why is the kaf doubled? Noon. There's a missing noon. Of course there's a missing noon.
Oh,
Why would there be a noon shoved in between the verb ya'azov and the suffix cha? Noon in between a yiktol verb and its
Yiktol.
pronominal suffix is called energic.
Mhm.
Sorry if I can spell it correctly.
Energic noon.
Energic nun. Or if you use the Latin, it's nun energeticum or something like that. But the point is energetic or energic nun, which apparently adds a certain force of certainty to the verb. Well, I say it adds, but it used to add a certain force of certainty to the verb. The grammarians will tell you that it does not really have that job anymore by the time we get to biblical Hebrew. I don't know. I still kind of wonder if it has a function, but we see this a lot in the Bible. Sometimes the noon shows up explicitly, and sometimes it assimilates, and you don't get to see it explicitly.
Is that the same? Is that the same with Yehuneka in the verse?
Yes. Yehu. Let me make sure I spell it right. Yehu. Ne. That would be with a segol, I think.
Segel, I think. Segel is right, yes.
Vayyelekh, like this. He will be gracious to you. We still have that yod at the front. He will. We have the cha at the end. You, chen, the root, to be gracious. He shall be gracious to you. Yes, it's the same thing. So I wonder if we can be afforded the right to translate these energic noon verbs as something like he will certainly be gracious to you, or he will certainly not forsake you
Mhm.
as an energic noon.
Okay, the energic noon is not a part of the root.
That's right. It's not a part of the
Yes.
root. It's something extra that comes on between a yiktol verb and its pronominal suffix.
So
If
with you,
Or
go ahead.
energic.
no, with Yechanek, what is the root? Is it not Hanan?
Hanan.
Hanan. So that's
Double
just
noon.
part of the root that went to that one.
Yes, this is part of the root.
So that would not be an energetic.
It would no. The energic noon is inside of here. So it's as if there are three
Okay.
noons,
All
right?
right.
There are two of the root and then a third energic noon.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
If anyone has ever seen the suffix enu as a 3ms suffix, not first person common plural we, but third person him. If anyone has ever seen this suffix before, there's your energic noon, and the hay of who got
Yes.
swallowed up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is the explicit energic noon, and there are actually a precious few places in the Bible where the noon will be preserved and the hay will be preserved, and it
Yeah.
becomes something like enhu, enhu. But over time, the hay back assimilates, and you get ennu, and that's also an energic noon.
Mhm.
It does exist. And so anytime you see that phenomenon, feel free to add the word certainly to it. In my opinion, feel free to add the word certainly to strengthen that verb.
Mhm. That means, also when I read that, enhu with a little bit enhu, because full vowel, yes?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, this suffix only shows up a handful of times in the Bible. The vast majority of them contract down to ennu.
Ennu
This
and
turns
ennu.
into that.
Is
Yeah.
that not in the oh, I was reading it just yesterday. In the I'll find it and send it on the chat. I was in the Isaiah, talking about that are used by Christians to predict that, say that what's going to happen to Christ in his life and so on. I can't remember what the passage is. It Isaiah 6?
Look, there are so many energic noons in the Bible. There are
brilliant.
tons of them.
Okay.
It occurs quite a bit. But yeah, I would venture to guess that it shows up many times in Isaiah as well. But I don't know which passage you're referring to quite yet. That's okay. If you figure it out, put it in the chat. All right, who is my next brave contestant, next brave reader? All right, Jesse, go ahead.
Vayikra Moshe Lechoshua Vayomer Elav Le'ene Kol Yisrael Hazak Ve'ematz Ki Ata Tavo Et Ha'am Hazeh El Haaretz Asher Nishba Adonai La'avotam Latet Lahem Ve'ata Tan Hilena Otam.
Okay. Vayikra Moshe lihoshua, and he called, that is Moses did, to Joshua. Vayomer elav, and he said unto him, Le'einei chol Yisrael, to the eyes or in the sight of all of Israel, Chazak, be strong. Ve'ematz, and of good courage. We're going to talk about these. Ki ata tavo, for you will or shall or must go, et ha'am hazeh. We'll talk about that. With this people, el haaretz, to or into the land, asher nishba Adonai, that he swore or has sworn, that is the Lord, la'avotam, to their fathers, latet lahem, to give to them, ve'ata tanchilena otam. All right, we're going to have to talk about that, I think. All right, first things first. Let's start with the easy stuff. I thought that was the direct object.
No, it's the marker.
Direct object marker.
But it can also be with, if it's but no, it doesn't normally have the line joining them together.
Very good. It can be either the direct object marker or it can be the preposition with. In the absolute form, they look identical, and they only look different when you add a suffix to them, right? If I am with him, how would you say it?
Eto.
Ito, very good. Ito with a chirik. But if I see him, direct object, how would you say that? Oto, right?
Mhm.
Direct object marker. Right. Direct object marker, oto.
Mhm.
That's your dumb direct object marker.
Mhm.
But if you're doing it with him, then you get a dagesh right there. Ito. Both of these have the exact same absolute form, et. All right, now let's move on to something else. What form are these two verbs?
Imperatives.
Imperatives, good. And how do we usually form the imperative in general, as a general rule?
With difficulty.
With difficulty. And you take the yiktol form and you lop off the tav. So the yiktol form of be strong would be tahazak. Well, actually, it would be techezak. 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 How do I know it's techezak instead of tahazak?
The guttural.
Vowel harmonization and a good
It's actually not because of a. Hang on a second. Hang on. What's because of a guttural?
I lied. I was wrong.
No, you didn't lie. Stop it. So we saw earlier, like for example, with the verb avar, it would be ta'a vor, right? Ta'a vor. That's where you get the sound. Now, ta'a vor, like this. Now I'm going to take a step backwards. Okay. How do I say you will guard?
Tishmor.
Tishmor.
More.
Tishmor. Very good. Very good. So tishmor is the farthest from the original form of the verb. What are you talking about? When we talk about yiktol, the word yiktol, like a future tense or incompleted tense verb, yiktol. Yiktol was originally called not yiktol, but
Yaktul.
yaktul. So we had two things change from other Semitic languages to Hebrew. First and foremost is this oo turns into an o, but also the ya gets lost. Everything shortens down to a shva, and then we add a chirik to the first letter. So yik, tol. Right? If both of these drop to shvas, we have to turn the first one into, well, in Hebrew, a chirik. The chirik is artificial. The original form was yak tul. And that's why we still have forms like tavo. Why do we have a full kamatz right here? Tavo. Shouldn't it be tivo? Well, no, it's because the root is weak. It preserves the original of the yak tul. Isn't that cool? Also, if there weren't an aleph here, let me just back up a little bit. Let's use a different word. Tashuv. Tashuv. That's a better example. In this word, it preserves both the and the u of yak tul. Yay! Does anybody know why tavo has an o sound instead of an u sound? I actually just gave you the answer a second ago. Did anyone catch it?
The U became O.
The U became O in most Hebrew forms, but my question is, if we have a root that has a weak letter like this vav that preserves the U sound, then why is it in the verb tavo? Why isn't it tavu instead of tavo? Here
On the front
Here,
end.
here the guttural is the problem. Having an aleph in front of an u sound doesn't happen. It turns into an o sound. But I digress. I'm getting really, really deep into the rabbit hole. Let me back up just a little bit. Okay, so the original form of yiktol is yaktul, and we can see it in irregular verbs like tashuv, and that's all well and fine. In the verb ta'avor, we lost the u that turned into an o sound. Fine. But the is more original. Ta'avor. Okay, so now let's take another step back into forward into the conversation from what we look at both of these. Teche zak. How do I know it's instead of Wasn't the original Unless it's a state of being verb, then it's
It's a guttural geit.
Well, the guttural isn't the problem here. The guttural is actually helping to preserve the original vowels. The statives are going to have an I flavored vowel followed by an A flavored vowel, which in Hebrew becomes teche zak. Same thing happened over here, matz. Both of these are state of being verbs, so they both have an original segol to mark that original I flavored vowel, okay, I feel like I'm just getting way too deep in the mud here. Is anyone having fun, or do you want me to move on?
I'm getting tired.
Okay. Well, just one last little, well, no. Let's say one last little thought. Why is there a patach here under the zayin in this verb? Shouldn't it be an O vowel if it's derived from the yiktol form?
Should be.
Should be, but it's not.
But it's at the end. It's the so telling you to take a comma.
No, that's over here.
Okay, sorry. But
This is actually joining it into the next word. It's a conjunctive cantillation mark. Why would a verb have an instead of an O in its yiktol form?
It's yiktal is possible and yiktol.
Of course, but when is it yiktal instead of yiktol?
It's a stative verb or the other verb form.
So we'll get a yiktal with a patach if there's a guttural in the second or third position, right? Or if it's, like you said, a state of being verb.
Yeah.
Now, I've already told you that this is a state of being verb, to be strong. So that's why we have a patach. Okay, fine. Well, why don't we have a patach there? If that's a state of being verb too.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden it's a kamatz. Why?
Because that's at the end of the. That's at
Very
the end.
good. I knew you would piece it all together. Absolutely. This is your pausal form. In pausal forms, your long vowels go, your short vowels go long. So instead of te'ematz, it's te'ematz, and you get a long vowel.
That is the passive form.
Yes,
Okay,
because it
okay.
should have a patach. Yeah, absolutely. This is a pausal form. Te'ematz.
So emats or the if it were being in katal form, what
Mhm.
would that be?
Because it's state of being, it would be ametz.
All right.
Just like karev or tzameh or malay, ayef, chaser. It would have a kamatz tzere in the katal form. So
Or
he
IF for
was
Sarah.
of good courage. Say again?
IF for Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
She
Ayef.
said she's IFA.
Ayef.
Tired, she said.
Yeah.
So
All right.
And
So this last little thing right here. What's going on down here? We know who the subject is, right?
Yeah.
Ata. So that's 2ms. You are
Oh.
the subject.
You.
the earth
And if
is
That's our what you call it, our energetic noon.
yeah. So we've got
Eretz.
so this
Eretz.
tav right here is our 2ms. Tanchil is our verb, he feel, from nachal to inherit.
Mhm.
And then we have en. We've got an on the end. We've got an on the end. Is that our 3fs suffix?
It can be, yes. Then
Yes, the who bit.
Who?
yes.
But if we're causing them to inherit her, then that refers back to
It's possible the earth.
the land. Exactly.
Haaretz.
Haaretz. All
Yeah.
right. So help me understand. Why is there a dagesh in this noon? If noon is our inner Gergic noon,
Mhm.
then why is it being doubled?
For emphasis, I don't know.
Oh
Mhm.
no, is it to do with that it should be hen henna?
I like where your mind is going. You are dancing around the correct answer. What is the suffix that we are most familiar with for being a 3fs pronominal suffix?
Hen.
No, 3fs singular.
Oh, sorry.
Ooh.
Hey.
Hey, exactly, a hey.
Hey.
We think of a kamatz hey with a
3FS.
mapik as being the 3fs suffix. Like if I
Yes,
did
yes.
something to her, then there would be this at the end of the verb or whatever belongs to her, right? So if she has a horse, we would say susah. And that
Susa.
consonantal hey there tells us that it's a male horse that belongs to her, right? Susah, as opposed to a susa, which is a female horse. You hear the difference? So a female horse is a susa, and that's a vowel hey. But a male horse that belongs to her is a susah. And you're like literally breathing out there at the end of the word. Look, nobody pronounces it that way anymore, but it is original. But my point is, we learned the 3fs suffix as kamathe with a mapik. Not original. What's the original 3fs suffix that turned into kamathe with a mapik?
Mhm.
Noon with a kamatz and then a hey.
It was ha.
Okay.
Ha is the original 3FS suffix, 3FS pronominal suffix. What happened is that we got lazy and stopped pronouncing the vowel under the ha and just left it at.
Ach so.
Okay, now with that in mind, go back to the original question. Why do I have a dagesh in this noon? Tan, chi, len, ha.
All right.
So this is your 3FS, ha. The hey on the end is a mater lectionis letter that comes centuries or even millennia later to represent that ah sound.
Mm.
And now the hey is back assimilating into your noon. Now you have tanchilena instead of tanchilen ha, your original 3FS suffix. Ha. Ha. Well, how about that? All right.
Ah, yeah.
Whose brain is cooked?
Second masculine plural. Yiktol. From you describing now.
Help me understand what you're saying. The second masculine. The
It's
second
tav
person-
noon at the
yes.
end. Yes?
No. The noon is energic. Your second masculine singular
yes,
form
sorry.
just has a tav at the front.
Uval, sorry. Yes.
If it's plural,
Okay,
then
sorry.
it's vowel. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Comments or questions? I know that was a difficult topic, but
What is the root for inherit?
yeah, nahal. What is it? Nechila. No, nachala. Nachala is an inheritance. So the root is nun chet lamed. And by the way, noon at the end of a syllable usually assimilates into the following letter. But since the following letter is a guttural, it's not going to. Tanchilena.
So could you translate that word as it
Yes.
should be, please?
You will cause to inherit certainly her. You will cause them certainly to inherit her the land.
Okay.
That was a good question to ask to kind of tie everything together right there at the end. Thank you for asking that.
Thank
All
you.
right. We have
One last thing.
Yeah, one last go ahead.
That the yod. Did we address the yod?
The yod is part of the he feel. So all of this is the he feel pattern in the yiktol.
Okay. So it's only identifying the verb pattern. That's its purpose.
Yes, it is. The purpose of the yod is to identify he feel. That's right.
Perfect. I love the mud, by the way, just for the record.
I hope everyone else has the same sentiment. Oh, mercy. Who is my next reader? Short little itty bitty verse here.
May I do
Come
it?
on. Step right up. Don't be shy.
Okay.
Sarah wants to do it, but she did have one earlier. Is anyone itching
Oh,
to
yes,
get a
it'd be
verse
not
in
so
before?
short.
Anyone want to get a verse in before we close out? We have about 6 more minutes.
I can do.
Sarah, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Adonai hu ha-holach
Mhm.
lefnecha hu yahi yahe. Oh, ye.
Yay. Well, actually,
Sorry.
properly it should be yay. That's a consonantal hey.
Right.
Yay. But nobody says that.
Ye.
In modern pronunciation, it's yay.
Yeah. Okay.
Please continue.
Imach
Mhm.
lo
Did we read this already?
Hmm?
Did we read this already? It feels like such a rehash. I interrupted
Yeah.
you. Please continue.
Yeah. Sharif. Feka.
Mhm.
Velo. Ya Saveha. Lo Tira. Velo Tehat.
Hot. Very good. All right. So there's so much in here that we've already covered and don't need to cover again. Let me read through one time. Va'adonai hu haholech lefanecha hu yihye imach lo yarpecha velo ya'azveka lo tira velo techa. Does anybody know the root of techat?
Chata.
Is it chet yod?
Chata.
Is
Chata like this?
tachat.
Yeah. Tacha.
Tacha.
With a
Tachat.
T at the end. Tav.
Okay, so it's chet tav, right?
Yeah.
Chatat. Okay, very good. And I was under the impression that it was also a state of being verb, but it's a very interesting form here where we only get to see two of the root letters, 1 and 2. We don't get to see the third one. What kind of roots? What's the name for those roots that have the second and third root letter is the same?
Weak roots.
Of course, but what specifically are they called?
So that is when the second tab is ein verb.
Yes, very good. So one name for them is ein because ein represents the second root letter. So by repeating it, the second and third root letters are the same. Is there another name for these kinds of roots besides ein? Some grammars will call them geminate roots, and it basically means the exact same thing. It means that the second and third root letters are the same, like savav or shamam, or in this case, chatat. Yeah, I don't see anything else here that we should really jump on because we've already hashed it all out. Who would like to read this next verse? Step right up. Don't be shy.
I can do.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Okay. Vayiktov Moshe et haTorah hazot vayitnach el hakohanim bnei Levi hanoshim hanosim et Aaron brit Adonai ve'el kol ziknei Yisrael.
Very good. What verbal form is let me read it through, sorry. Let me read through one time and then we'll get into questions. Vayichtov Moshe et haTorah hazot vayitnah el hakohanim bnei Levi hanosim et Aaron brit Adonai ve'el kol ziknei Yisrael. What verbal form is this?
Vayiktol.
Exactly. Now we started with a Vayiktol. Now I'm ending with a Vayiktol. What do we understand from a Vayiktol?
Normally it's the future.
Future tense.
No.
Not
future,
Vekatal,
no.
but Vayiktol.
All right.
Narrative past or what is
Very
that?
good. So it's going to be some sort of a completed action.
Completed
And
action.
the vast majority of the time, it is a narrative past.
Mhm.
Narrative past part. Narrative past meaning what happened next in the story. And then he did this, and then he did that. Very good. Vayichtov, and then Moses wrote. HaTorah hazot, at the Torah hazot. He wrote this Torah. Is law a good definition for Torah? What's the root of the word Torah?
Yara.
Yara.
Yod-Resh-He.
What
Torah.
does Yara mean? Pew pew
That mean
means to shoot an arrow.
yeah, and to teach.
Okay, we're getting there. So a yore
Yeah.
is one who shoots arrows.
Huh.
Yara, he shot arrows.
Yes, okay.
Now, if we put it into the he feel, then it becomes Torah. And there's your original, there's your yod, excuse me, there's your original vav coming back instead of the later yod. So vav, resh, and then missing yod over here. Hora, this is causing someone to shoot an arrow. That is someone teaching you how to direct your forces. So the idea of Hora, instruction, comes from someone teaching you how to shoot either your words, your actions, or your arrows in a true and correct way.
Is that the reason for sin? And when you shoot an arrow that is not in the middle of the target, that is thinking from sin is
Right. There is a verb, there's a verb in the Bible that talks about those warriors who are able to sling a stone and hit a hair without missing. That word without missing is the same root as chet, sin.
yeah.
So yes, the root chet, which means sin, comes from the same root as missing the mark. Absolutely. But that's it's interesting that sin comes from a warfare term, if you will, just as Torah or Torah, instruction, comes from a warfare term. Someone is training you and instructing you to shoot straight, and that becomes part of your character. So calling Torah law is wholly inadequate. If you're going to translate it into English, try using something more like instruction, but just the word picture behind, like either a father helping a son pull a bow and release the arrow, or possibly a seasoned veteran training a rookie how to operate his equipment, that speaks volumes to how God comes alongside of us and instructs us in the way we're supposed to go.
You do
And-
know the
but I-
acronym. You do know the acronym for the word Bible, right?
The basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Tanakh.
Correct.
This is
Correct.
what you're talking about, Tanakh.
Instructions would be a lot better than law.
Instructions is great. Yeah. Okay, so
Can I ask you where the text comes from?
excuse me,
in
are
the
you talking about the
Torah? Yes,
Tav in Torah?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a part of the pattern of the word. Like for example, there's a tak tul pattern.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, hang on. Torah, tak, tul. I can't be certain whether this is a Torah. No, this might be taktala. This might be a taktala pattern. Taktala. I don't know for sure. Please forgive me. I think it's a taktala pattern, but because of the vav as the first root letter and a weak yod as the third root letter, it looks significantly different. It's simply Torah, but it is part of the pattern of the word.
Okay.
All right, so Moses wrote this Torah, Vayitna. Here's your that we were talking about, 3FS, referring back to her. Strong dagesh because of the missing noon of the root, Natan, and he, or narrative past, and then he delivered her, it, El HaKohanim. What kind of a word is this?
A noun.
It's participle.
Thank you
Noun
so much
plural.
for saying that. It's a participle. But participles are adjectives and can be used substantively as nouns. So Thomas is also correct. This is the action of kahan. What's the
As
verb
a
kahan?
serve as a priest.
Minister, yeah.
A ministry.
Minister, absolutely. Did you know that 2 of David's sons are called Kohanim in the Bible?
No.
Stop and think about that for a second.
Hmm.
Can we translate it as priests? Well, no, David was from the tribe of Judah. He wasn't a Levite. So why are his sons being called Kohanim? Because they were government ministers. So Kohanim properly means ministers. But if we're talking about the Levitical variety, then we'll call them priests. Ha-Kohanim, the ones ministering, or we'll just call it the priests. B'nai Levi. Does anyone remember what the root Lamed Vav Yod means? How did Levi get his name?
Oh yeah, I know it, but no, not. Maybe is.
Was he the second born? It was Shimon, and then Levi, and then Yehuda, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
Levi, the root Lamed Vav Yod, means to accompany. Lilavot, to accompany someone. So poor Leah, she's all sad because her husband loves her sister more than her. So the first son she has, she says, well, God has heard me and given me a son. The second one, I've given him 2 sons. Certainly he will accompany me, like be okay with being beside me. Yeah, poor girl. Finally, the third son,
Yes,
she's like,
yes,
praise
yes.
God. Just praise God. Yehuda. Ha-noseim, is this also a participle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that are doing the action of bearing, or the ones who bore et Aaron Brit Adonai. There you have a 3-part construct chain. The ark of, the covenant of the Lord.
The Lord.
And here you have another 3-part construct chain. Ve'el kol ziknei Yisrael. Did you know kol, all, is a noun?
Not
No.
yet. It's a noun. And be used as a noun.
All is always a noun.
So what's the root of it?
What is the root of kol? That's a great question. Does anyone know?
Is it kaf lamet?
It's geminate. Try again.
Kaf lamet lamet?
Very good. Kaf lamed lamed. Kaf lamed lamed. Excellent. Very good. Okay. I
And
think
what does it mean? What does that mean then? Kaf lamet
kol,
lamet.
The whole or all.
inclusivity. Kalal or klal or kolel has to do with inclusiveness. So kol means all things included, all, each, every, or all. If the following word is singular, then you can translate it as each.
Plural.
But if I hear that, I'm saying if the following word is singular, this one is not singular, you're absolutely right. But if it were singular, then kol should be translated as each or every.
Okay.
But if it's plural, like this one, then it should be all.
Yeah.
All right, I've kept you all long enough. You all have tuckered out listening to all of my mud. Thank you so much for coming and having a fun time. I will not see you next week because of the holiday, but I'll see you in 2 weeks. If you want to support Hungry for Hebrew, here's how you can do it. Thank you all so very much. See you in 2 weeks.
Shalom,
Shalom.
shalom.
Happy
holidays.
You're awesome.
Hak
Have a great vacation, Jared. Be
Okay,
safe.
have a good holiday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hihitrot.
Good holidays.
Shalom.